Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Not to be outdone by what Glasgow is doing, Edinburgh has decided that it too will blow a lot of money to ensure that addicts have somewhere to go and do their thing. Glasgow has, or is in the midst at least, of opening up a gallery where people can go along and take illicit stuff free from fear of prosecution, and where there will at least theoretically be someone monitoring them so that they don't OD or otherwise do harm to themselves. I'm not sure how this is in any kind of moral stance. It's almost as though you're condoning the use on one hand. On the other hand, at least you are protecting and saving people who are ravaged by an addiction. So it is a difficult moral stance to be. However, it will, of course, impact on the neighbourhoods where these things are. And it's not as though you could put it in some out-of-town place or on the edge or somewhere safe or well away from where people live. Otherwise, they just won't go there. They are, after all, very lazy people. They just want to hit and sleep, don't they? Especially if it's with, sort of the stronger stuff. Well, Edinburgh has seen what has been controversial in Glasgow, and it's decided that it too wants to have one at the cost of £2 million a year to the taxpayer. I'm pretty sure nobody has consulted the taxpayers of Edinburgh to see if that's how they want their money spent. Let's take a look. Now, Edinburgh could get H shooting galleries costing taxpayers £2 million a year. I don't know. Is it not better, perhaps, to treat people, to get them to come off this stuff in the first place? I know, as someone who used to smoke 40 cigarettes a day, how hard it is to give up an addiction. And they reckon that tobacco is a harder addiction to give up than H. And it did take me several attempts, but then I have given it up. I haven't smoked in nearly 10 years, or about 10 years now. God, you are bouncing off the walls. But there is much help for people to give up smoking. There's this, there's that, there's the other. There's all sorts of things that you can do. And the government really push this. And yet you wonder why they put so much money into giving up smoking when they raise so much money through tax. And yet so little effort is put into giving up hard stuff like this when they get no tax from it at all. So one argument, of course, may be make it legal and tax it. And that way at least you're controlling the supply and you control what goes into it, But it's that's a discussion for a different video on a different day. It's not today. We're looking at this now. But yeah, I certainly feel that treatment should be pushed at the provision of facilities, put it that way. But anyway, councillors in the Scottish capital are now considering plans for safer consumption facilities that would operate in a more than one location, with Leith and the world famous Old Town the likely venues. Oh yes, because the first thing you want to do for tourists coming through to look at Old Town Edinburgh is to see a gallery and all these people sitting there, all these losers sitting there, putting things in their arm. Don't think so. There's got to be better places, surely. Who knows? Anyway, Glasgow's controversial safer drug consumption facility is due to open later this year, after a lengthy political battle between the SNP and the Home Office. The standoff was eventually resolved when Lord Advocate Dorothy Bain said users won't be prosecuted. That doesn't legitimise it. It's just they're making the point that they're not going to prosecute if it's taken within that facility. Outside of that, it's still illegal, and it's still illegal within it, but outside of that, they will prosecute you for doing it, but inside it, they'll turn the blind eye, as it were. Now, councillors at the other end of the M8 in Edinburgh have been told they should take steps to introduce the same provision in the city, with officials adding that this should ideally include more than one location. The Old Town and Leith are the likeliest areas to be considered for these galleries. A feasibility study by the City of Edinburgh Council told councillors it would cost between £1 to £2 million a year to run, and it would allow addicts to inject in a hygienic environment with medics on hand and without the threat of prosecution for possession of Class A's. The report states Edinburgh does not have a single geographically specific open drug scene, and there is not one outstanding location which obviously presents itself as the natural site for a standalone, site. Instead, there are pockets of increased harm within more widespread areas of elevated consumption. Well, if they know this, and they know where these elevated pockets are, why not send the police in? Why not pick them up? Why not deal with them? They know where they are. They can surely deal with it. Why don't they send in teams, social teams, help people get off? Why don't they make life better for people? And then they won't feel the need to go down that route in the first place. If your life's shit and you're looking to come out of it, that's what happens. Anyway, both the data analysis and the participant interviews also point to particularly dense clusters of harm in the old town and parts of Leith. There's also clusters in more outlying areas, including Granton, Gracemount, Niddry, and Wester Hales, along with the A70 in parts of Gorgie, Delray, and Fountain Bridge. Glasgow's consumption room, the report said, is set to get funding of £2.3 million a year. It's due to open at the existing NHS assisted treatment facility in the East End at some point this year. Millions upon millions upon millions spent so that addicts have somewhere to go and continue, but not much is being spent on the treatment of people or the encouragement of them to get off this in the first place. It's a hard moral call. Personally, I think treatment rather than provision. Provision kind of legitimizes what they do. Treatment, it sort of reinforces that it's not right and it's damaging them, and you can help them move away from that particular damaging lifestyle. It's not impossible. People can come away and go on and become fulfilling people. I've known people that have. But it is a tough call. But then it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. It is hard. I'm not making a bone about it. I'm not picking a moral stance on it. The people who are users are victims, but they're victims of circumstance. But they can and should be able to be helped and to help themselves. And I don't think enabling is doing the right thing to help them. But, you know, it's a view. Let me know what your view is. This is controversial. It's a very controversial thing. And I'm not going to pick a side. Like I say, I'm presenting two things. My personal view is my personal view, which I am going to give. But I'm not saying that my personal view is necessarily right. It is just my view. Let me know in the comments what you think. Treatment or provision? Who knows? I'll leave it there. I mean, we've covered the story, so I'll come up and we'll round off. For me, the problem isn't the use. If, for example, everything was legal and it was controlled, and you could just walk into a shop and go, oh, I'll have one of them, oh, I'll have two of them. And you knew that what was in it was clean, was safe. It came pre-made with, you know, just disposables. You weren't sharing needles or anything like that. And the quality was of a certain standard and whatever. And it was taxed. It wouldn't actually be a problem. People go in and buy it and use it and do it in the same way as they do all the other products. The problem, and the main problem with this, is what people do to be able to get this stuff. And it's thievery, shoplifting, robbery, mugging. For girls, it tends to be prostitution. And it's a very degrading process. Not the drug taking itself, the actual obtaining it. Well, it's a day's work, isn't it? And it's very degrading, and it causes a lot of crime. And I think if you can get people off, it reduces crime. And the argument may be there to legitimise it, and that would reduce crime. It would also reduce the profit margins all the way through. It would get rid of all the dealers. It would stop the violence. It would actually be a benefit, I think, if it was legitimised and taxed. Again, a point of view. Anyway, I should stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. I think that would be absolutely... I think this is going to be very, very controversial subject. So I'd be interested to see. Thanks a lot. Bye.